What's up? This is Chris Leben, and you're watching Combat Insider.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Combat Insiders. I'm here with the legendary, the Crippler, Chris Leben. Chris Leben, what's going on, sir?
What's up, man? Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Hey man, thanks for coming on, bro. You're like I said, you're an absolute legend, man. And UFC Ultimate Fighter Season 1 vet, man. You were there when all the stuff really started blowing up, man. I guess while I'm talking about that, speak on that real quick before we get into the other stuff, man. Like I said, you were there, really when obviously the UFC was already established, but that first season was really what set it off into the real mainstream.
Yeah, the UFC was established, but at that point they were kind of in trouble. I mean, things weren't really going great for them, and honestly, we didn't even know if that first season was going to air. You can look at that first season. There's no sponsors on the mat. Our team shirts are just one color. That's it. Yeah. But I don't think anybody really expected the outcome of that show and what it did for the sport. And I mean, how all of a sudden, it took these fighters and it made them household names, and it gave people, a reason to want to get behind one athlete or another athlete and really feel connected to and feel like they knew that athlete. And I think that was what the sport was missing for a long time, was there just wasn't a lot of ways for guys to relate to the people in the sport. So I think that's what the Ultimate Fighter has done so well.
Wow. Yeah,
it was wild. It was wild too, because I remember reading after you guys did that season, that was like a huge turning point, even financially. It was like an up in the air thing, and then this season happened and aired, and boom, everything's back on the map. So you guys were like kind of the cog that kept the wheel going, which is kind of awesome.
I sometimes I like to point that out. I'd like to point out to Dana, that show kind of saved the UFC, and I might have been a big reason that show was a success. What's up with some No.
Yeah. No.
What's up with the little kickback now that you're doing so well?
No doubt.
You were a wild man on that episode. It was great to watch it. It really was.
I mean, me in my early 20s, it made for good TV. I'll definitely say that. Made for good TV.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt, man. If we were going through some stuff, which we already knew it, because your fights, man, were always so exciting, and it was almost, I was telling him, I was like, there was a couple fights in was it versus Terry Martin versus Akiyama? Those are one of the best, the best comebacks of all time, and they're on everybody's list. They're on UFC's list. They're on Bleacher Report's list. Especially the one with Terry Martin, man. It's like, you take that damage, but it's like nothing stops you. It's like I almost joke around and be like, man, the guy should have been called the Terminator instead of the Crippler sometimes. But, I guess just talk about what made you, like you're taking that damage, but you just kind of go that extra mile and end up getting the W. What makes you push past that certain level?
It's hard to tell. I mean, it's one of those, after it happens a couple times, you know that that's the way that you fight, but I think until somebody is in that situation and they get hit and they get rocked, they don't know what they're going to do. I mean, my natural reaction is, it's self-preservation. It's like, I'm hurt. I got to stop them before they stop me, So it really comes down to self-preservation. Some people, the self-preservation tells them you better turn away, you better turtle up, go fetal. But in my case, a lot of times it's obviously there's not a lot of time to think and reflect on what you're doing, at the heat of the moment, So I know that when guys hit me, if they hurt me, my natural reaction is to move forward.
And historically, you're one of the best at it. Like you said, you're in the highlight reel multiple times for just these wild, insane comebacks. Like we watch it, and I'm like, yeah, I'd have been asleep already. But not in your case.
It's worked out for me.
Hell yeah, it has.
Not the easiest way to make a living, but you know, it's done all right by me.
It's also cemented your legacy.
Yeah, 100%.
You're there.
Chris, if you could, man, if you could speak about it, you know, I was watching some of your story, the video that they put out about you, and you know, just kind of catching up on a lot of your stuff. So, you know, you stepped away for a little bit from the MMA world. You had some kind of heart condition and stuff like that. Could you talk about that and just kind of maybe explain exactly what was going on, and I guess explain, you know, your health now?
Yeah, so I mean, initially, you know, my last few fights, all the fights that I lost, you know, at the end of the UFC, those last 4 fights, one, you know, I tested positive for Oxycontin, right, which was an issue in my life, you know, and then I was put on Suboxone, you know, which is supposed to be a partial antagonist, and it's not supposed to really get you high, but you know what? It takes that tenth of a second off your speed and your hand-eye coordination. And, you know, besides that, you know, I had some stuff going on in my personal life, my relationship, you know, and, you know, I lost 3 fights in a row, and I was just like, fuck, I can't handle this losing, you know, retired. Ultimately, was able to, and it wasn't easy, but I was able to get off the Suboxone, and all of a sudden my head cleared up, and I'm like, fuck, I'm beating all the dudes up in the gym again, like I'm faster, I'm sharper, I'm crisper, having some issues with my cardio at that point, you know, but, you know, I figured, you know what, I just got to train harder, just a little bit older, that's all it is, you know, I'll just keep pushing, and you know, the cardio will come. Ultimately, you know, I booked in with Bellator, and then during my medicals, I filled my EKG. They went and did an echocardiogram and found out that my heart was barely working. It was oversized, misshapen, you know, and I think that probably part of that was from the Suboxone. Obviously, alcohol played a role, you know, just life stress, you know, all that stuff that, you know, why we have so much heart disease in modern culture, you know, and so at that point, there's no way I was going to be allowed to fight, you know, and the doctors told me, hey, you know, you probably need a heart transplant. We don't know if you're going to have enough time to get one. So, you know, so they put me on some, you know, some medicine for my heart. And, you know, at that point I was training at my gym, the Arena, you know, and my support group, the owner of the place, my boss, really helped me a lot with dialing in my supplementation. So I moved a block away from the beach. You know, I cleared all the stress out of my life. I was off the Suboxone. I quit drinking completely. You know, I switched my diet, you know, to mostly plant-based, and when I do eat meat, it's organic. Yep. You know, and then I started adding a bunch of organic supplement, turmeric powder, raw garlic, raw cayenne. Yeah. You know, every day taking these powders, you know, and you know, one checkup turned into, well, you're probably not going to need a new heart, but you need a pacemaker. Well, I didn't want to get a pacemaker, you know, so then they're like, okay, well, you know, you got this % chance you might die this year if you don't get a pacemaker put in, right? So, you know, in my opinion, I was like, you know what, though? You look at that percentage of people and you go, probably the % that die don't do anything about their condition. They probably just keep on drinking, keep on eating steak every day. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, you know, I trusted in what I was doing, you know. I never stopped training for a day. They didn't want me to do any cardio, but I never stopped training. And, you know, I went back in. They said, guess what? Good. You don't need a pacemaker anymore. Your heart's gotten better. Awesome. You know, at that point, my cardiologist was like, I don't know what you're doing, but, you know, just keep doing it, you know. And so, you know, over the next couple years, I got to check up every 6 months. And, progressively it got better until about a year and a half ago, when my cardiologist was like, if you wanted to compete now, I wouldn't have a problem. Your heart is good. There's no risk. So about a year and a half ago, I talked to my boss about it. We said, let's give it another year. We gave it another full year, and you came back in, and my cardiologist was like, well, it's even better. It's surprising. Most people with your condition, they plateau at a point, but yours continues to improve.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was like, well, let's start thinking about fighting. Kind of started to shop around, and that's when I got the call from the bare knuckle guys.
Yeah, you know what? It's amazing what you could do when you do a little bit of research, do some natural stuff. I work in the medical field, so I see that all the time, and people get like the wildest results. It's just not really recognized here, because here we believe in take this prescription, that pill,
Obviously,
that pill.
The FDA can't patent and sell
Herbs.
turmeric,
Yeah.
And charge $100 a pill for it. So, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that,
So you got the bare knuckle call, obviously a good performance. Was there any hesitation when the call came through, like, let's do this without gloves? I mean, you push forward in fighting, you push forward with your condition, so this would be no different. But was there any hesitation with the gloves off, or?
Well, I mean, I was thinking about MMA. I'm an MMA fighter. I had been focusing hard on my jiu-jitsu, got my brown belt, and so, I was like, well, at first I was like, I don't know, I kind of wanted to do MMA, but then I got on YouTube, and I started looking up that first event, and I was going, fuck, man, this sport was made for me. Like, I hate to say it, but this, I'm built for this, small boxing ring. They can't try to take me down and hold me on my back. They can't run backwards and throw a spinning back kick, just straight slugging it out. I mean, I think, I think the sport was made for my body type and the way that I fight.
Now, I only bring this up because I know the promotion itself, World Bare Knuckle Fighting Federation, got a lot of flack about some things that happened that was out of their control. I watched the first event. I thought it was a great event. I know there was a couple previous matchmaker. You had a couple rocky spots, and if you care to share, I mean, I did read your article that was written. If you care to share to clear the air, you can. If not, we could kind of skip over it. But
So I think, probably a lot of people out there, if they haven't, they really should read Boss Rutan's press release that he put out. He covers a lot of it. Yes, the former matchmaker, right? FMM, as Boss was calling him. Just a really hard guy to deal with. I mean, ultimately, when they called me, negotiating my contract went well. Signed the contract, and then, they were a new promotion. So I said, I'm going to need to show a good faith. I need some money up front. So the money was supposed to come July 1st. But then all of a sudden after, I signed my contract, couldn't get a hold of the guy, and then, weeks after, my money was due, he finally got me half my money. And several, and then he would call me and tell me one story about what happened. I sent the guy to the bank. He had the wrong accounting number, this, that, ultimately. He told me one time he sent it to a guy in LA, and the guy was going to drive it down to me, and then I think the last one was that he thought he was only supposed to send me the half, 5,000, because he was sending Frank Mir 5,000 for his fight, who wasn't even on the fucking card, right. And there were times when he didn't even remember that he had talked to me and given me a story the day before, and then he he would disappear again. So it was, I was talking to Boss yesterday, and I said, I can pull my bank records and give exact dates. But off the top of my head, he was several weeks late on the first. It was all supposed to be due July 1st. He was several weeks late on the first half, and then like a month and a half, 2 months late on the second half. And as you guys have probably heard, a lot of that money that was going to fighters for their camp, to fund their camp training money, a lot of it didn't even show up. Right. So where it is now, we don't know. But ultimately, I stayed in good terms with him. You know what I mean? I'm one of those guys. It's like, why start a war with somebody? In particular, I wanted to fight. So the entire time he was working for the company, I stayed in good terms with him. And then obviously, things started to leak out. Next thing I know, he wasn't with the company anymore. He's calling me repeatedly. I chose to not answer my phone. And then most recently, after my fight, he was continuing to call me. So, finally I answered my phone, and again, I was cordial. I mean, at this point, he doesn't work for me. Why create an enemy, And he said, hey, really good job. He told me, I'm working for the other promotion now. And, we want to sign you. We want to steal you back from these guys. We'll pay you way more money. So whatever, you don't sign your next contract with them. Which I thought was interesting because I read Boss Ruden's article, and he says in his article that the other promotion said he's not working for them.
Right.
But he certainly told me that he is. And I mean, it's one of these things where it's he said, back and forth, but you kind of look at it and you go, well, fuck, everybody's saying this shit about him. You know what I mean? Right. Is it everybody else, or is it this one person?
Right.
And the straw that really broke the camel's back was, I did another interview, and I had no idea. They brought up that the former matchmaker was telling people that my fight with Baroni was rigged, which I'm not gonna lie, it cut me deep, man. I was like, dude, I was always cordial with this guy, and he's doing whatever he can to ruin the show. But I thought we were good. You know what I mean? Say it about somebody you don't fucking like, man. Don't throw me under the bus. Everybody knows what kind of fighter I am. I've done a lot of fucking things wrong. But throwing a fight or being involved in a rigged fight is certainly, like, my ethics are certainly skewed. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. Sure, I've had my substance abuse problems. I've been in trouble, outside of the gym. But there's certain things I don't do. I don't lie. I don't cheat. I don't steal. These are things that I don't do. And so for him to say that, man, it broke my heart. Really upset me. So at this point now, I'm like, and I think most anybody with any common sense goes, yeah, no, I saw the fight. Don't get me wrong. I fucking broke my hand on Baroni's head. I don't think very many people in the world get back up after that punch. I mean, it was clean. It was hard. Yeah. So that was upsetting. That was definitely upsetting. I'm still upset about it. I certainly don't want to rant and rave and lose my cool and look stupid. But yeah, man. Yeah, I'm not happy with that guy.
I thought it was important for you to tell that because, like I said, if you look on social media, they got a lot of flack about the promotion, and I give credit to all you guys that still came on and fought because you love to fight. Credit to Boss Rutan for making the announcement, and Adam Labar, their media PR guy. They did a great job, and with all the things that went wrong, it was still a really awesome show. Everything went great.
I will say this. I've known Boss for 18 years now at this point, Yeah. They brought in Burt Watson after they got rid of the former matchmaker, Burt Watson, and to handle the weigh-ins, handle the flight, handle the fighters. I worked with Burt my entire life at the UFC. They brought in, those are the right two people to bring in. They brought in those two people. And after this person was out of the picture, all my interactions with the company have been phenomenal. I knew getting there that there was a lot of adversity that they were facing. There was some shit going on behind the scenes that obviously you don't want to share with everybody before the show.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely could sense that, but you know what? Maybe there were some hiccups with the production, with the interview. There was a lot of stuff that he was supposed to do that didn't get done. Ultimately, though, the show went off, and the fucking fights were amazing. I watched every fight backstage before mine.
Yeah.
It was one of the most exciting shows I've ever seen. I mean, it was bloody as shit. Yeah, you had knockouts, you had wars.
Absolutely.
I think the sport is the future, especially when you look at, like the three of us, we're MMA fanatics probably a little bit, so, fights hit the ground, and we're still interested. You look at your average American fan and you go, what do they want to see? I mean, even me being, a UFC veteran, sometimes guys are slugging it out, then another dude shoots a double, and I'm like, damn it, them banging it out was so exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, even I do that. So you think from an aspect of what your average American wants to see, I mean, I think it's going to sell pay-per-views. I really do, especially after being part of that inaugural event.
Yeah, it's definitely got growth potential, and there's two promotions now, obviously, and they're both good. I think it's great for the sport. But now I want to talk about your fight. You obviously were in there like they could have made the ring a quarter of the size, and you'd have been happy just standing there and banging it out. From watching it though, it almost seemed like he was trying to wrestle you a little bit. It was very weird.
So what I'll tell you what was going through my head at the time.
Yeah,
please.
And
then I'll tell you in hindsight what I think.
Okay.
So, watching Baroni's fights, training for Baroni. I trained my ass off, by the way. I hadn't fought in 5 years, and I wasn't going to be the guy that comes out of retirement and fucking looks shitty. You know what I mean? I feel like I was in the best shape of my life. I can really, truly say that. Nothing bad went in my body at all. No fucking sugar. No, I ate completely perfect, trained perfect, did everything. So get that out of the way, So, we studied Baroni's tape over and over and over again, and I knew, I was like, he's gonna come hard out of the gate. Watch that right hand. I mean, you guys know this. This is standard Baroni procedure. A couple months ago, he was the main event at King of the Cage here in California. I had the opportunity to watch that fight against Matt Lagler. And you know what? He knocked Matt Lagler out in, less than 20 seconds. Ran across the cage in an old Baroni fashion. Boom, 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 boom. Fight's over. Right? So I saw that and I was like, fuck, I'm going to be ready for that. That's what's going to happen, So it was okay. We're going to go out. We're going to circle hard. Watch that right. And what happened was, he would throw that overhand, tip his head off, and then almost like dive into the clinch, right, and drive me into the corner. So this happened twice. The second time I circled more, he drove me into the other corner, and the ref kept breaking it. So in my head I was like, what the fuck, man? He said we get to work from the clinch. Like, my plan was, hey, first round, if he wants to clinch a little bit, let his arms get tired, I know my cardio's better. We're in Casper, Wyoming, which is at 5,500 feet. Even 2-minute rounds, he's gonna gas. So let him get tired. Dirty boxing, clinch, that's my shit, anyways. So I was very comfortable there, but the ref kept breaking it. So I was kind of like, what the hell to the ref? What's going on? And the third time he did, I caught him the second time with an uppercut as he was coming in, and hearing the tape, Boss and Kenny thought it was a slip. That wasn't a slip. I clipped him coming in, and the third time he was rocked, and I could see, I was able to read his speed. I knew he wasn't quite as fast as some of the older fights that I had seen him. So I knew that overhand was coming, and then it was just sidestep, boom. Very clean. We drilled it a zillion times. It literally worked out like we trained it in the gym. I want to put a video up of us training that exact thing. It's one of the few fights I've had that actually worked out like we trained. That one, Vandalay, was exactly like I trained to. A lot of people don't believe that, but that's exactly what we plan to do. Anyhow, going back and watching the tape, when he rushed me into the corner, and he was real low, almost like he shot. You know what I mean? And I think he was probably thinking at first, watch his left hand. We'll tie him up. So we don't get clipped with that left hand early. And I think what he wanted to do was thinking that I'm an MMA guy, I'm a wrestler, I'm going to drop low, and when he digs his hands for underhooks, I'm going to break off and hit him. Almost like DC and Stipe. You guys remember that fight?
Yep.
Like clinch him up, everybody kind of drops their hands out of the break,
Yep.
Rush him into the corner, drop, get real low, so if he tries to tumble, I can come up high. I mean, if I was his coach, this makes sense to me, so that's what I think was going on. But it was a boxing match, so it didn't cross my mind to, if it was MMA, that would have worked. I would have dug underhooks to try to stop the takedown. But since it was boxing, I kept my hands up, so I think he didn't get the opportunity. Does that mean, what do you guys think about that? Do you think that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It's a good explanation because it looked wild watching it on pay-per-view. You're like, whoa, because I've seen bare knuckle fights overseas, Joe Riggs namely, where he had a fight and he actually shot in, picked the guy up and took him down like he had a lapse, like, oh my God, I forgot it's not MMA.
Yeah, sure.
So I thought that's what was happening. And you could even see there was a point where you're like, hands up, like, why are you breaking it, this, that, and the other thing. But, I mean, your end, the performance was perfect.
And that's the thing that I hate is, the comment that people tell me, oh, Baroni looked bad. How about I look fucking good? You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's how I'm looking at it. You went in and fought a good fight.
I just watched him knock a dude out in 20 seconds, Depending on who you're in there against, it depends on how you're going to look, When I fought Anderson Silva, the same thing happened to me. I was the first guy to fight Anderson Silva in the UFC, and guess what? Everybody said Chris looked fucking horrible. Chris looked terrible that fight. It wasn't until he went on, he knocked out Forrest, he knocked out the next guy, and the next guy, that then your average fan started going, wait a minute, maybe it's not Chris. Maybe it's Anderson's really fucking good. You know what I mean? So,
Chris, that's a good point. That's a good point, man, because, I've always thought that, and I always have a huge problem with that, because when people say stuff like that, you're essentially shitting on both guys, right? You're shitting on the guy who won, because it's like, well, he only won because so and so was, a pile of shit, right? And then the guy who lost, he lost because he was shit. It wasn't because the guy was really good. You know what I mean? You're shitting on both guys when you make comments like that. And I can't. That shit drives me up the wall, man.
And I mean, I can't tell you how many people say things like that. Like, I trained with Randy for years, you know, and when you go back and you read any of the the stories you hear about everybody's fight with Randy, everybody says the same thing after they fight Randy. I was just off that day. I went out, and things weren't working out for me. I was missing my punches. No, man, it wasn't you. It was the other dude. Right. You know what I mean? Right. He was making you off. Yeah. So I think kind of the same but different. Same kind of thing.
I think that only comment works if they would have put you in there. I mean, he's not a no-name. He's a legit fighter. It's not like you went in there and fought some guy off the street they just found to fill it. So the reality is maybe what he's doing would have been great against a lesser opponent on that day. But you came in ready, your cardio was right, you trained to defend exactly what he did. Yeah. So really, that's props on you. When you make it look easy, that's your good work.
You know what? And it's funny too, because it always works out like that. The harder you train, the luckier you get, kind of a thing. Every fight that I've ever went in and been like, man, I really got to get this done in the first round, ends up being a 3-round war. When I go in ready and prepared and expecting a bloodbath,
Yeah.
I was expecting 5 rounds of slugging it out with him. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's over, and you're like, what the heck, So
I did all this training for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So do we see? Can we expect more you in bare knuckle? Was that kind of like a one-off situation? Is there something that could be, a permanent home for you?
I mean, I hope so. Again, I really liked everybody at the organization. I think I could do well in the sport. And I feel better than I ever have. And I think where I'm at in my career, for me, like a bucket list kind of thing, it's pretty cool to be like, I'll be able to tell, Grandpa was a bare knuckle boxer. That's pretty neat.
Right.
To do that and to be part of this on the ground floor, because I think the sport is going to be. It was, 100 years ago, it was the biggest sport in the country.
Yeah.
Right.
And here it is, this reinsurgence of it. I think it's going to be really cool to be part of this. And I think 10 years from now, we're going to be talking about this event like it was UFC 1.
Yeah.
I hope that that's the way it is. And in that case, then absolutely, I want to be part of it. That being said, I was been focusing on my jiu-jitsu. I've been doing IBBJF. I would like to, and MMA is not it's not off my radar like some of the other guys. Like the right fight. If I know the fight's going to be exciting and I'm going to get paid, I'm in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm 38 years old. I got a family, so absolutely, why wouldn't I?
Yeah, so who gets your blood going, man? That you see, when you see fight now, because like I said, you've been there and you've seen it all, and you've seen, you fought the greats, you've seen the greats come in and come out, and like now, like the current guys nowadays, whether it be bare knuckle, whether it be MMA, UFC, Bellator, whatever, who's a guy that you watch and you're like, wow, like when that guy fucking comes on, I'm gonna make sure and watch him.
Oh man, there's several guys I like. There's a lot more guys I don't like. I'll be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Recently, I thought that Weidman Jacare fight was spectacular.
That was nuts.
I was really excited to watch that fight, and both guys. I love both guys. I feel like Weidman's got so much talent. I know he's got the rough end of the stick as of lately.
Yeah.
And Jacare is one of those guys, man, where he's like, as a fighter, there's guys that are better than you, but they're not scary. Jacare is one of those guys where he's fucking scary dude to fight. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
he's like a Dan Henderson. He's not going to do anything. He's going to try to hurt you though. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I love watching Jacare. So I really got a kick out of watching that fight. As of recently, both those guys. Other than that, man, there's certain guys I tune in for, and unfortunately now there's so many guys that there's also a lot of guys that I'm like, who's fighting? And some of these kids at my gym that know more about this sport than I do will be like, "Oh, you don't know this is his 4th time in the UFC. He's 3-1. He's you know what I mean?" And I'm like,
"You're like,
fuck, man. Apparently, I missed it. It's hard to keep up on everything. Especially I now that I'm a referee here in California, so most of the time, I've got to go back to watch the show because I'm usually reffing on the weekend. And then I'm in the gym all week training. It makes it hard to keep up fully.
Yeah, so
I know that.
I was gonna say, well, talk about your gym, man. So you're a coach at the arena gym, right? The shirt you got on. Talk about that, man. Where can people get more information on that?
So check us out, thearena.com, or even just Google arena. And I think we're like the first thing that pops up,
Cool.
We're huge. I think we're literally, there's like one other gym in the world that offers more classes than us. Some gym in Singapore. We got like 110 classes a week.
Wow.
It's a huge facility. Barrett Yoshida is our jiu-jitsu instructor. I mean, if you don't know who he is, you're not into jiu-jitsu. Our boxing program is phenomenal. Lots of pros, lots of amateurs, great coaches. We got Coach Joe Vargas. We got Coach Bashir, who coached the Olympic team the last couple times. You've got me and a couple other coaches that work. Chuck and Vince. We do the striking. I work with the fight team. I teach fundamental jiu-jitsu, and we're really. I mean, it's my family. It's. I mean, 70% of the people in there are military. Almost everybody in there is competition minds orientated, whether it's boxing, jiu-jitsu, or MMA. So if anybody's in San Diego, yeah, check us out. Also, I think you talked about it a little bit. We've been the Arena YouTube station. They've been putting out a lot of really good videos on the build up for my fight.
Yes.
For the bare knuckle, my training.
Yeah.
Everything that's going on. If you're interested, check out the YouTube. Yeah.
I'll put a link on that when we upload the video. I'll put a link on that in our description. That way people can go check that out because it was really good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then if anybody's interested in, my heart and my diet and all that stuff, I also have a YouTube station. My girlfriend kind of does those. It's fun for her, to do those videos and put them up there. Happy wife, happy life, right?
Yes, sir.
So if anybody is interested in that, the hard stuff, the supplementation, lifestyle stuff, they can check out, my YouTube station as well. And other than that, man, that's, life is good.
I'll tell you, if we have any influence, we're begging. Sign him for the next bare knuckle event. It was good, man. It was good to watch. It's good to watch technical striking with somebody that's willing to slug it out. And you're that guy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Anytime.
Right on. Thank you, guys.
Hey, thank you so much, man. Have a good day.
Yeah, bud.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.